James says in the book of James, faith without works is dead. That's how I got involved. That's how I got involved. The theological meeting, the social dynamic, and the reason I believe I was being prepared for that moment anyhow. And I'm just happy to be here to share those few moments with you tonight.
Hard act to follow, but I'll try. I think what brought me to the movement was growing up in Robert E. Lee's hometown. Folks now say Northern Virginia, oh, that's not the South. Yes, that is the South, and that was definitely the South back then. When the trolley crossed the river from D.C. to Roslyn, it stopped so people could sit where the law said they should sit, or they could get out and walk. My life was all white, except for the folks who came to work in our homes, who, as far as I knew, only had first names. I can still remember some of them, but beyond their first names, I have no idea their life story. I could sort of see, being a good church girl, Presbyterian, that this life we were leading was sort of a contradiction to what we talked about on Sunday morning. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And as much as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. We were in King James back then. But as soon as we left our segregated church, because it would have been illegal to have an integrated church, for all of God's children to come together, no matter what song we sang about Jesus loving the little children, red and yellow, black and white. The law said we were white or we were black, and the rest of you folks, depending on where you lived, you were one or the other, but there were two divisions. As any Native American in Virginia could tell you, they were just sort of eliminated from existence as far as the law was concerned. Anyway, I saw increasingly a contradiction here, and by the time I was in high school, our state was in the throes of massive resistance, outshining even Mississippi in that regard. And I had classmates in high school who were a year behind because their schools had been closed under massive resistance. And this gave you a lot of cause to think about what our society was doing. I resolved that as a Southerner, I had grown up in Arlington. My mother's family was from Georgia, and that was all the relatives I really knew were down home in rural Georgia. I felt very strongly as a Southerner. We didn't have, national TV was not a big thing, and we were still very regionalized in this country back then. Georgia cracker was a compliment in my community. Some of you may find that hard to believe, but being called a cracker was a compliment. It was not a dirty word in my community. I felt as a Southerner that I should do what I could in the keeping of my faith to make my home, the South, a better place for all of its people. And when the sit-in movement started in North Carolina, that was my opportunity. When a small group of us white folks at Duke were invited to join the students from NCC on the picket lines and at the sit-ins, I was there. So when Duke and I parted company on not the best of terms, thank you, and I came back to the DC area, I connected with the students at Howard who were getting ready to have some sit-ins over in Arlington. across the river. Well, that was my home turf, so no brainer. And in keeping with Gandhi's teaching, we were big not only into Jesus but into Gandhi back then. If one person fell by the wayside and could not continue, the next person stepped up to take their place. Well, we had sort of given Hank Thomas a hard time, jokingly, because we knew there really was a danger. But, oh, you're going on that Freedom Ride, you're getting this all-expense-paid vacation to end your semester? Way to go. Well, when we saw the burning bus and him out beside it, I don't say we felt guilty, but we knew what we had to do, and that was step up to take his place. 3 guys went down first, and when I got that call from Paul Dietrich in the basement of the church in Montgomery, Alabama, where they were surrounded by a mob and the marshals and National Guard, I mean, this was the postal workers, as I understand it. You know, those postal trucks are sort of slow, and those were our protection. But calling, because he knew I was in an efficiency apartment with a phone close to hand, and they had about 1 minute for their phone call, and it was, we're trapped in the church, send more people. We started sending more and more students from our little group to where we were second only to the Nashville student group in keeping the Freedom Rides going. In Nashville, I would say, was only, had us outdone because they were a little bit closer. We had further to travel, but don't tell that to Diane. But by the time my group went, we had, I don't know, 5 or 7 of us, I'm not sure, off the top of my head after this day, who flew from Washington to New Orleans one day and hopped the train to Jackson the next. Now, if you want to talk about being afraid, Stokely Carmichael, who I still count as a dear friend, but a pontificator of the New York variety, he was pontificating anybody in the car with us, and that was more frightening than anybody who might be out at those station platforms. But we survived Stokely and were quickly arrested in Jackson. But I would say our faith made us whole. And it wasn't that there was a big plan to go on the Freedom Ride. We had sort of laughed it off. But when the occasion presents itself, one has to act, to be true to themselves. What, particularly to the students here, us old gray-hairs, we're sort of past our prime, perhaps, but to the students, you have to seize your moment. And what we can hope is that by knowing what we did, you will have the inspiration and the knowledge to move forward in a new direction to make life better for all of us, whether it's here or on the streets of Cairo. Thank you.